Oh my.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Bret Lueder Show. Today I have with me someone who I consider to be one of the legends in the UFO field. His name is Tim Swartz. He's an Emmy-winning TV journalist and videographer. He's written at least 17 or co-written and written 17 books that I counted on Amazon. I think there's more. He's written with the likes of Timothy Green Beckley, Mr. UFO, Sean Castile, who many of you may recognize if you guys are into the reading about this subject. Brad Steiger, a huge giant that a lot of people forget about, who himself wrote probably 40 books. He's also the co-host with Gene Steinberg on the weekly Paracast podcast. And I got to say, I took a look at some of your shows in preparation for this, and you've got some pretty big heavy hitters. So if you guys are really into the UFO stuff, check out the Paracast. His website is conspiracyjournal.com, and I'm absolutely thrilled to have you on the show. Tim Swartz, welcome.
Bret, thank you very much. I appreciate you having me on today.
Right on. I appreciate your time. Okay, so you cover a wide range of topics, from the Hollow Earth. This is one of my favorite books right here. You edited that one,
Oh my gosh, yes.
Sharp Shaver. So I'm gonna have a couple questions about that. You've also got. You were just saying this is an older book. You've got
Very
books.
old.
You've got books that are 20 plus years old, right? That are still on
Yes.
sale on Amazon, that are still selling. You've got the new book out here, Mimics, The Others Among Us. We're definitely going to get to that. But my first question to you, sir, with all the stuff you've written about, especially in light of this book, Secret Black Projects of the New World Order, right? You have other books with similar themes. You're delving into stuff, you're exposing some information. Have you ever been approached by an agent or attacked or anything, told to cool off, back off? You hear about
Yes.
that in the UFO field sometimes.
Right, right. Well, as far as I know, no, never. But I will say that if someone were to do that, that would basically be a confirmation
Right?
of what I was doing was actually catching attention somewhere.
Ruffling some
So
feathers, yeah.
yeah, so obviously what I'm doing hasn't got anybody's attention yet. No, but I think some of these stories that you hear of people saying that maybe embellished a little bit, because it would be my feeling that if a government or intelligence agency is really interested in what somebody is doing, the last thing that they want to do is to reveal that interest by going and saying, "Hey, shut up." Don't write about this kind of stuff, because then there's that confirmation that you may be onto something. So I think for the majority of the time, these kinds of agencies just, I mean, they may do quiet surveillance, but for the most part, they're not going to go and just come right out and tell you to stop it. Again, that's a red flag that you are doing something that they're interested in, and they don't want you to know that.
Or preferably, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But you can take this theme back to the 60s, I guess, with Alfred K. Bender's book, UFOs and the Three Men,
Mhm.
where he says it was the original, maybe the earliest report of the Men in Black, telling him to silence him about reporting that UFOs are coming from Antarctica or
Mhm.
from one of the poles. Um, and so, what about the Men in Black? I know you've written about the Men in Black, right?
Mhm. Oh yeah, yeah. The Men in Black is an interesting phenomenon,
Yeah.
okay? Because there seems to be maybe several different factors going on with them. There could very well be, like some kind of intelligence group, human intelligence group that is interested in the UFO phenomena and is wanting to keep tabs on the civilian investigators. But then again, there seems to be also like a paranormal aspect, which that's one of the things that I cover in our latest book, Mimics the Others Among Us, is this a paranormal aspect to the UFO phenomena, cryptozoology, practically everything that I have written about, there seems to be an underlying supernatural element to it as well. So it could very well be that with people like Bender and others, they may not have actually been approached by humans or even extraterrestrials, but instead elicited some kind of response from paranormal agencies. And the late John Keel wrote quite a bit about this.
Right.
That this could be an element that, rather than being dedicated to these kind of things, is almost a I'll say like a knee-jerk reaction to what people are obsessed about. There have been similar encounters with people who have researched King Arthur or ghost stories or the Kennedy assassination. None of this is exclusive to the UFO phenomena. So unless there are almost like from comic books or pop movies, unless there are all kinds of different clandestine agencies all dedicated to shutting people up for whatever their interests are. I think that there could be something else going on rather than just simply a human intelligence agency or military or government group involved in a lot of these situations.
Right. Well, you're hitting the nail on the head. I was going to try to ease into that topic a little bit, but
No, I just jump right into it head
right.
first. Yeah.
So the spiritual aspect of the paranormal, you've got traditions around the world that talk about beings called demons or archons or fallen angels
Mhm.
or lower astral entities, cryptids, right?
Mhm.
What is behind the paranormal, do you think?
Yeah, well, I suppose if I had that answer, um, I wouldn't be sitting in my modest home.
Yeah, you'd have a bestseller on your hands. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd be raking in the money and being on Oprah if or The View or whatever the shows are that are still on anymore. That's part of why we're doing this, is to try to come up with explanations on why this kind of stuff happens. I will say that these kind of phenomenons have been with us probably as long as we've been on the planet. Maybe as soon as we crawled out from the caves and started throwing rocks at the moon, there seems to have been some kind of paranormal entities, phenomena that has came out with us. All right, for whatever reason, maybe they share our reality with us, and but are very good at camouflaging themselves.
Right.
Or they could be like some of the old occultists used to say, they share our reality, but they live on a kind of like a different vibrational level, and for most of us can't really be seen unless they want to be seen. Of course, that's just speculation, there's been centuries of speculation about this kind of phenomena. But I will say that, considering what people's mindsets are, the phenomena has a tendency to then adapt itself to fit those characteristics. So, say 200 years ago, if people believed in, elves and fairies and things like that, then the phenomena adjusts itself to appear that way and to confirm those belief systems. Nowadays, people don't really believe, not a lot of people at least, some do, in elves and fairies, but instead are more accepting on the idea that we could be being visited by extraterrestrials, and then the phenomena adapts itself to that. 200 years from now, who knows? We'll probably have a whole new group of I don't want to say urban legends, but they kind of fit within that realm of belief systems, and this phenomena will go and mold itself to to confirm that. You have people like Walter Bosley, who talks about the trickster element, and the UFO phenomena, ghosts, cryptids. Boy, they really do seem to fall right into that category of enjoying tricking us and leading us to believe that we may be on the right path towards an explanation. And as soon as we think that we've got it nailed down, then it goes and changes itself completely, and we're back to square one.
Yeah, well, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's been with us since we have our own history. But as you're well aware, we supposedly have history that's not mainstream, like Atlantis or Lemuria
Mhm.
or Oceania or a number of alleged former continents or civilizations. So going back to that, you know, searching around the information, you bring up the Nazis and stuff. They're going way deep to Hyperborea and the land of the giants and stuff like this.
Mhm.
So just my personal take is that I think there's a leftover from that era, which is what the paranormal is. That there maybe could be some beings that are left over from that,
Mhm.
that are in a different dimension, and that's where you get the term, I think, lower astral entities. But also, I think what plays into this too, and I'm going to guess that it's part of this book right here, Mimics, is shapeshifters. You got shapeshifters in the book Mimics, I'm guessing.
Yes, yeah, that's part of and in mimics. I mean, we cover it all, from like I said before, like the elves and fairies to shapeshifters to the men in black and the UFO phenomena, and also cryptids such as Bigfoot and other kinds of unexplained humanoid entities.
So let's talk about Bigfoot for a second.
Hmm?
So I had the pleasure of meeting Kiwani Lapsaritis back in 2007. He wrote the book, The Psychic Sasquatch and Its UFO Connection, and Their UFO Connection. And then he invited me up to his house after that to possibly have an experience. And I was in a tent out in his backyard and experienced over this 3-day weekend, I experienced all kinds of sounds, breathing, footsteps, hooting back and forth. He maintains that they're relatives of humans and that they are interdimensional, hence their ability to shapeshift or disappear when a hunter enters their area. What's your take on Bigfoot?
Hmm. It wouldn't surprise me if there were some kind of physical Bigfoot that still exists. But not as many as the phenomena seems to indicate, because people see Bigfoot in all kinds of diverse locations,
Right.
and in urban areas as well. So I mean, you would think that 7, 8 foot tall hairy giants, uh, would be capable of maybe hiding in the wilds of, say, like the Pacific Northwest, but in places like, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Philadelphia, places like that where
Right.
they've been seen, I doubt it. So, much like the UFO phenomena, I think that there could actually be, we could actually be, at least for a small part, being visited by extraterrestrials. Um, I think that there is another element at play that mimics these phenomena. So, a lot of the Bigfoot phenomena that people are experiencing, it has this paranormal, this supernatural type of abilities to it. So I mean, you can't tell me that these creatures, if they were just physical remnants of a cousin species to humans, have managed to survive all this time, can come out, run around people's backyards, and then disappear into the forest without eventually being caught. Uh, if they are, if there are as many of them out there as sightings seem to indicate, why haven't they been hit, run over by a truck yet? Because some of the majority of sightings seems to take place when people driving on the road and these things running back and forth across the highways. It's almost like they're wanting to be seen. So I do think that there is some kind of, and when I use the word paranormal, it's for want of a better word. It's difficult to say. I mean, I think that these things probably do exist in a, it's like I said at the beginning of the program, either another reality with the ability that they're able to come into our own, or they exist in this reality with us, but they have abilities to keep themselves invisible, or whatever. I mean, that's, I've been researching all of this for what, 40 plus years, and have seen some pretty wild things, during my investigations, and I'm still at a loss of coming up with a really good explanation. Because, like I said before, once if you start to actually believe that you're close to an answer, then the rules are changed somewhere along the lines, and you have to start all over again. But like yourself, I mean, I've talked to a lot of people who have had Bigfoot encounters where these things have appeared in their homes. I mean, all the way up to reaching all the way up to the ceiling, bent over because they can barely make it, and then vanish and disappear. So, I mean, you can't tell me that a physical Bigfoot has that ability to unlock a door, come inside, and then get out again without, the dogs biting them or neighbors shooting them, what have you.
Yeah, great point. Spirit is alleged to be able to do something like that, to materialize in the physical world and then poof, right? So that it kind of
Right.
leads to the spiritual aspect of possibly a Bigfoot. But I recently interviewed UFO old timer legend Norio Hayakawa, and he
Mm-hmm.
said, Bret, after 60 years of research myself and experiencing, we haven't moved one step forward in the field of ufology. That we're still scratching our heads 60 years later, or more. So 75 years later, and so you kind of hinted at Jacques Vallée's work a little bit. He's talking about a control system.
Mm-hmm.
One of the words that I think he threw out there, or phrases, was invisible college.
Mm-hmm.
Something's going on that's teaching us whatever. But you said something key in your that last monologue there, is that the Bigfoot seems like they want to be seen. I think I could say that about UFOs too. It seems like
Mm-hmm.
UFOs can make an appearance just at key times or at key moments. Does this imply that there's a conditioning process going on for humanity to wake up to a larger reality, possibly?
Possibly. And if it is, this is a process that is playing the long game, because
Sure.
this has been going on for centuries. People have seen UFOs thousands of years ago. I mean,
Right.
there's possibly writings in the Bible and other old texts that appear that they are referencing UFOs. Of course, the terms are couched in the belief system in those days. So, I mean, they would refer to them as, say, like fiery shields in the sky,
Sure.
or the cherubims, or things like that. But like you said, I mean, if UFOs were just physical spaceships from other planets, you would think that if they were going to fly around in our skies, that they would do so without being so brightly lit.
Huh.
Why are these things, glowing bright with displays of lights flashing around them? Almost to the point where they've got like "Eat it, Joe's" written underneath, or not a flying saucer. you know,
That'd be funny.
yeah. So I mean, if these things are trying to remain secret, why are they making themselves so obvious to us? So I don't think that the point is really to remain secret. It's almost like they want us to think about them, consider their reality, but not so much. You know, for whatever reason. And if this is some kind of long-term conditioning, why is it taking so long? A lot of people like to talk about since the beginning of the modern UFO era, which started in around 1947 with the Kenneth Arnold sightings, that now people are more accepting of the idea that there could be life on other planets. But really, up until the beginning of the 20th century, most scientists and astronomers accepted the idea that Earth wasn't the only planet, at least in the solar system. I mean, at that point, 400 years ago, we only knew about our own solar system. And it wasn't a matter of does life exist on other planets, but what's this life on other planets like? Very accepting of that idea. And it wasn't really until the beginning of the early to middle 20th century that scientists became more skeptical and started to think that maybe Earth was the only planet in the universe to have life on it. But now we've kind of come back around again and are more accepting of that idea. And we've taken it a step further that we're more accepting of the idea that this life may be visiting us here.
Right. Right. So, something that's come to my mind, and I think you've written about this. You talk about the New World Order in various forms. Uh, Cultures from around the world have been trying to wake people up to the idea of UFOs or star brothers and sisters, as a Nancy Red Star, for example, might say in her Star Ancestors trilogy. That
Mhm.
all the indigenous cultures around the world already know that they've been here and they already have relationships with them. Um, I think it was George C. Andrews in Extraterrestrial Friends and Foes said that it was Jacques Vallée and Alan Hynek that actually blocked disclosure to the UN, which would have blown the lid right off of everything.
Hmm.
And that's just one of many facets that I've learned in my own research about disinformation campaigns from our own government. Is there a bona fide reason why, or a sinister reason why, our government would want to hide the alien presence to us, to their own people?
I think that possibly one of the main reasons is that a lot of these government agencies aren't exactly sure what we're dealing with. Yeah, they would like to think that maybe these are representatives of intelligent life from other planets. And I think that there could be a good possibility that sometime in the past, say like in the 1950s, there was landings, maybe several times, where government officials actually met with the entities that came out of these craft.
Right.
You have the stories of like Eisenhower meeting with these beings, and the stories like that. They may be anecdotal, but there is a possibility. I think that they may have happened not just in the United States but other places on the planet. However, the information that was then given by these entities may not have eventually panned out to be true. All right. These entities maybe originally had said, you had the whole contactee movement in the 50s, and they claimed to be from, like within our solar system, Venus, Mars, places like that. Well, then we weren't quite sure whether or not that was true or not. Venus, even though it was shrouded by clouds, it was considered that, it could possibly harbor life. Mars definitely was always thought for years and years to be able to have life on it. Eventually, we come to find out that, the Earth is probably the only planet in the solar system that has life, at least life as we know it. And then these entities change their stories. All right.
Right.
Now they're no longer coming from the solar system. They're coming from someplace further away, a lot more difficult to verify, that information. Now they're coming from Zeta Reticuli and Alpha Centauri and places like that. So if we did have these kinds of early contacts and the stories that were being told turned out to be false, then that's, how can we trust these entities? Or, if they told us this, is everything else they told us the same way, not true? So I think that part of the whole UFO cover-up is because government agencies have no idea what they're dealing with. The only thing that they know for sure is that these things are flying around in our skies with impunity. We can't do anything to stop them. And that's scary. At least that's scary for authority figures. And the fear has always been that if they admit that these things are flying around and we can't stop them, then where the public trust is just out the window. And that's what they're afraid of. They are afraid that they will lose whatever power that they currently have once people find out there's something even more powerful out there.
Right. And, after 75 roughly years, and we still don't really know in the public, you'd think that the truth would have been leaked out. And maybe it has been leaked out, but there's so much other information, misinformation, and disinformation. It's hard to tell what's really what. So one of the things that you've written a lot about, and I'm definitely a student of, is the hollow earth. And that's what Alfred K. Bender was saying, that the UFOs are from Antarctica, or entering from one of the two of the poles. and so the whole UFO thing could be a whole lot closer than planets or even other dimensions. So, a tactic, if you were trying to fool somebody, is to create a distraction over here, like way out in the planets or the solar systems.
Mm-hmm.
And when really it's like right in front of your face. I don't see that to be coincidental. And in fact, I think it was Kelvin Rowe that wrote Call at Dawn in the 50s. And he said that Pluto and all the solar bodies had hollow spheres with civilizations in them.
Yeah.
So do we have a hollow Earth, and do we have civilizations there? And could that be where UFOs are from?
Well, I mean, I don't think that we have hollow Earth like they used to write about, and in fact, Edgar Rice Burroughs, the guy who wrote the Tarzan books, he wrote a whole series called Pellucidar, exactly about that subject. I mean, with all the traditions, with the crust only being about 1,000 miles thick, and then inside the Earth was a reverse of like land masses. On the surface where you had oceans, in the hollow Earth there would be land masses with a small central sun and all of that. I doubt if that's actually the case. I mean, we don't know for sure. I mean, we've got a pretty good idea now using earthquakes and seismic readings on what's inside. However, I do think, and we know this for sure, that the Earth is riddled with all kinds of huge subterranean tunnels and caves, and some of these have probably been augmented by past civilizations. We're not the only civilization that has arisen on this planet, I think. There have been other human, maybe even non-human groups. The Earth is incredibly old, and I think that it's a conceit of ours to think that we're the only smart ones to have arisen and after all this time. So I think that there's a good possibility that some intelligent species are still with us, living underground. And again, not in like a vast, huge, hollow Earth, but in these giant subterranean kingdoms, so to speak. And again, I'll reference Walter Bosley. Walter Bosley said, his dad told him a story about a crashed UFO that happened around the time of Roswell. That it turned out that the beings from this craft were from an underground civilization, and it was his dad's task, along with others, to return the living individuals, back to their home. So I mean, that's an excellent story, and I think that there's a good possibility that at least some aspects of the UFO phenomena represents groups that are on this planet with us.
Yeah, so I've studied this Hollow Earth thing quite a bit. You and your stuff and Timothy Green Beckley's stuff and the stuff you guys have written together have been pivotal. David Hatcher Chiltis has written some stuff. I've also watched Brooks Agnew's lectures, which I found he's really brought in some science that really seems to back the possibility of a hollow Earth, including S&P waves, the seismic waves that they send down, and they're apparently finding, at least closer to the core, a different kind of a density than the crust or the mantle or the crust. So also too, I think it's very interesting to note that Wendell Stevens told me in an interview that he was in the Air Force, and he was flying in planes, I think as a photographer, up in Alaska, and also seeing UFOs heading towards the north.
Mm-hmm.
And he thought that kind of confirmed what Bender was talking about. So if there are civilizations in the Earth, hypothetically speaking, why don't they want to have anything to do with us, or are they interacting with us in some way?
No, I do think that they are interacting with us and have been um, for thousands of years. I mean, all the stories that we have of the old gods, of the angels, demons, and other types of entities probably have less to do with supernatural, paraphysical, as we think of of these types of creatures, and more to do with these others that live on Earth with us. Again, either underground, maybe even under the ocean, civilizations that has remained hidden from us. Was it Richard Dolan? Talked about breakaway civilizations. He was referring more to more recent groups, but I like to think that there has probably been either humans, Homo sapiens, who at some time in our past have moved underground, or even cousin species to us, the belonging to the the Homo group, but not exactly Homo sapiens. Close enough that we could interbreed with them. Close enough that if they walked around in a big city, mostly they would go unnoticed, but not quite exactly human beings. With technology that may be superior to ours, or maybe just slightly superior to ours. That's what Walter Bosley wrote about, that these beings have a technology that is just slightly ahead of ours, but they're really good at making themselves look more technologically superior. Bells and whistles type of thing. So, I don't think that we are alone on this planet, both physically and possibly on different levels of reality, whatever that means. That's still something that I'm researching and others are researching on these other aspects of reality, either parallel realities, or again, like I said before, beings who are able to keep themselves out of sight from us.
Okay.
Through whatever means, either natural abilities or technological. I think that some of these have a natural ability, like some of these Bigfoot sightings, like your own. Because like you said, I mean, if you were dealing with actual giant creatures running around outside of your tent, they probably would have been a lot easier to see.
Yeah.
But instead they were almost like phantoms.
Yeah. I had never actually saw one. They never let me see them, but
Mhm.
I was up there in the context of Bigfoot, and the guy who I was staying at his house with says it's Bigfoot. So I just assume it's Bigfoot, but I'll have to, because I haven't seen them, I'll have to stay open to what they might be. Okay, we got about 2 minutes in this segment. You're going to stick around for a second segment?
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely wonderful. So in 2 minutes, if it's possible, do we live in a simulation? Simulation.
Do we live in a simulation?
Yeah.
Oh boy, that's a great question. Yes, I think that we do. It may not be a simulation where some other kind of superior intelligence has built our universe in a little glass jar somewhere, but I like the idea of a holographic universe. That our universe is basically just a three-dimensional projection of a two-dimensional reality someplace else in the universe. So what does that mean? I mean, is it a construct of something, more intelligent? That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Holographic Universe. That's a great book by Michael Talbot.
Yes.
Another good one was Ken Wilber's Holographic Paradigm.
Mhm.
And it's just the infolding and enfolding of reality. Um, it's amazing that some people can come up with this stuff who aren't on drugs. Right?
Well,
So
I've got a good story that I can tell you in the next segment
let's do it in the
about it
next segment.
possible.
We only got about 30 seconds left. So once again, the book is Mimics, The Others Among Us. You're going to want to go out and get that. Tim Swartz writes some awesome stuff. I'm a personal experiencer of many of his books. So the website's conspiracyjournal.com, and we'll be right back.